Howdy, I'm Jim Rutt. I'm going to provide a slightly different perspective in that there's been a group of us been informally working for about a year on some potentially massive socio-political economic change. We call our little group New Day. So think of us as a potential consumer of some of the wonderful thinking about different ways to do governance. We all in our group agree that things are fucked up and bullshit. Our slightly more Madisonian framing is, since 1789, the unfolding of our economic, political, and social systems has resulted in a system that fails to promote the general welfare. Some examples of what we think of this unfolding has happened, I would say unanticipated probably by the founders, the gigantic asymmetry between the power of an individual and the power of legal entities. In 1789, a big business had 20 employees, probably the biggest in the country had 100. We know that asymmetry is vastly larger today. And then another unfolding that's resulted since 1970 in business, science, technology, etc., is things like increasing returns to scale business models. Who would have thunk that the wonderful internet, by reducing friction and increasing transparency, has actually resulted in more winner-take-all games than before? It has not been the economic democratization you might have thought. Globalization. I wonder what the historians will say was the most important invention of the 20th century. Was it the internet or was it the shipping container, right? And another one that's accelerating here into the 21st century is the encapsulation of more AI and deep intelligence into capital, so that more and more human labor is being replaced by machines. And I think the big result of this is a fundamental, deep, and pernicious shift in the balance of power between labor and capital. More return to capital, less return to labor. We also believe that our institutions have been stuck at what may have been local optima at the time in the fitness landscape, but now no longer promote the general welfare. We have a monetary system of fractional reserve banking and debt money, which represents $1 trillion a year subsidy of financial services. Perhaps even worse, acts like methamphetamine in the neural network of our information system. A good financial system is a neural network that helps us make better decisions. We are basically polluting that with methamphetamine. Intellectual property law, not going to go there. We know there's lots of issues there. We have a financial system where opacity is deemed to be a right. Why is that? In fact, the rules of efficient markets say everyone should have full and symmetric information, yet the institutions have been jiggered for heavy opacity, and that's really where all the profits come from. And even consider things like our legal entities. Originally, a corporation was a privilege of limited liability granted for a specific purpose of social good, like building a canal or building a bridge. What has happened with this? We're supposed to be a democracy. Why haven't we fixed our stuff? And the reason is we actually have an evolutionary machine to make these changes. It's called politics. Unfortunately, it's been hacked, right? And it's been hacked in, we think, two broad categories and a lot of other ones. The most obvious is money and politics and the closely related revolving door. I won't belabor it. Read Lessig. He nails it. But another one that's probably a little less obvious is we call bad discourse. Right, systematic bad discourse. For instance, here we are living in the materially richest place in the history of the world, inconceivable to the emperor of Rome that you could live as well as a welfare mother today. And yet, insecurity is widespread. We call that the bad meme of cultivated insecurity. The other one, closely related, which was alluded to today, we refer to as false hopelessness. The fact that these things can't be changed, bullshit. They could be changed. We could go out there with pitchforks and torches, hang the bankers, and change it tomorrow. It could be done, right? At a more tactical level, not that I would advocate anything like that, right, in a public forum. And then, of course, at a more tactical level, the idea that there's just bad and intentionally bad discourse around things like climate change, right? Oh, yeah, laws of chemistry and physics are wrong. Yeah, bullshit, right? But there's people whose short-term self-interest is that. So bottom line, how much radicalism? A lot is what we're calling for. We think there should be a deep play. We think change is needed to create a culture of honesty and good faith pervasively. No longer the rule should be, is it arguably legal and profitable, then we should do it. That's wrong, right? And we think that our institutions need to be seized by the American people and recrafted to promote the general welfare. We think blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go skip all over all this stuff here. And then we need to have activity at local levels, national levels, political, community development, a new kind of economics we call Cane B, and it ought to be laid on a substrate of a network of networks designed fractally for self-organization around community development, game B businesses, as we call them, political organizations, and anything else people want to do with that network, which we think will actually probably be way more interesting than the things that we thought about for the network.